From the first breath you ever took, eyes wide, lungs raw with the startling memory of stars, you arrived, not just as a body, but as a radiant conduit of pure energy. You were not merely a baby entering a world of form. You were a luminous pattern, a humming lattice of presence, potential, and potency. But almost immediately, something happened. Before you could even name yourself, the world began to name you. Before you could speak, a story was already being whispered into your cells. And slowly, imperceptibly, your energy, the very light you carried into this realm, was woven into a system that did not serve your sovereignty, but siphoned your essence for other ends. This isn't conspiracy. It's architecture. It's the ancient structure behind the scaffolding of civilization itself, a design so old, so seamless, that most never see it, and those who do, often see it too late, after decades of fatigue, after chasing purpose through broken systems and hollow rituals. But the truth has always been there, hiding in plain sight. Written between the lines of every institution, embedded in the rhythm of every social ritual, silently pulsing behind every demand to conform, consume, and comply. Those unseen architects of unconscious consensus have never needed to trap your body. They've only ever needed your attention, because where your attention flows, your energy goes. And what they've built, generation after generation, is a complex and subtle siphoning system, a spiritual economy that harvests your vital force from the moment you are born into a name, a role, a belief, a performance. Your energy is the currency, your fear is the fuel, your forgetting is the contract. And so, life begins as a slow dissociation from source. You are taught to mistrust your own intuition. You are told that answers lie outside of you in experts, in authorities, in books, in tests. You are conditioned to believe that success means sacrificing your inner compass in exchange for validation. And slowly, your light is dimmed, extinguished, but hidden beneath layers of identity, obligation, and artificial need. You begin to live as a battery, not a beacon. Power is something to reach for, not remember. But what if that power was never lost? What if it was only buried intentionally, systemically, through invisible rituals of disempowerment disguised as normalcy? What if the very institutions that raise, educate, govern, and entertain you are not just flawed, but designed to keep you in a state of low vibrational output, always reaching, never arriving, always doubting, never knowing? This is not an accusation against any single person. It is not about villains in suits or shadowy elites. It is subtler than that. This is a call to awaken to the deeper pattern, a pattern that persists because it is unacknowledged, a pattern that steals not your freedom, but your focus, that trades your inner peace for manufactured urgency, that replaces your presence with performance and your natural joy with carefully crafted substitutes. This theft is not loud, it is rhythmic. It pulses through your day in 1,000 quiet ways, in the way media hijacks your nervous system with fear-based imagery, in the way education rewards memorization over self-inquiry, in the way social systems shame your stillness and glorify your exhaustion. All of it keeps you in a loop, looping, not because you're lazy or lost, but because your energy is being redirected without your consent. And this very moment of awareness is the key. Because once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. Once you recognize the subtle hooks, emotional, psychological, even spiritual, that pull on your energy, you begin to reclaim it. You begin to ask new questions. You begin to rewire the ritual. You begin to remember that you are not a cog in a machine. You are the light that powers the machine, and you were never meant to forget your own radiance. This is not about rebellion. It is about remembrance. Not about breaking the world, but breaking the spell. The spell that tells you your energy belongs to something outside yourself. The spell that keeps you reactive instead of reflective, consumed instead of conscious, obedient instead of aware. There is a deeper design, a truer rhythm, a higher octave of life waiting for your return. Not out there, but within. Not tomorrow, but now. You have always held the frequency of freedom in your core. The journey ahead is not about acquiring it, but uncovering it. It is the work of breaking the old contracts, dissolving the inherited programs, and stepping fully into energetic sovereignty. Because once you reclaim your energy, the game changes. Entire paradigms collapse in your presence. Systems that once fed on your confusion begin to wither. Your clarity becomes rebellion. Your peace becomes resistance. Your joy becomes sacred revolution. And so, we begin. To understand how your energy has been used against you from the moment of birth is to begin unraveling a web so intricate it has been mistaken for reality itself. It isn't a single thread, it's a tapestry woven from language, law, culture, psychology, and even spirituality. At the center of this web lies a simple truth. Your consciousness is not just valuable, it's vital, and not just to you, but to the very systems that profit from your unconsciousness. The first and perhaps most essential theme is that energy follows awareness. Wherever your mind rests, your life force flows. This is no poetic abstraction, it's a foundational law of consciousness. Your attention is creative, it seeds times, it anchors frequencies. When your awareness is fractured, split between fear of the future and shame from the past, your energy becomes scattered, and scattered energy is easily redirected. You are less likely to notice the siphoning when your light is already dimmed by division. This is why the system never teaches you how to focus inward, to cultivate stillness, or to listen to the whisper of intuition. Stillness is dangerous. Stillness leads to clarity, and clarity leads to liberation. So from the beginning, you are trained to look outward. School rewards the regurgitation of facts rather than the cultivation of wisdom. Media conditions your nervous system into cycles of dopamine-triggered consumption. Society presents a model of success that is always just out of reach. More money, more beauty, more status, anchoring your energy to a treadmill that leads nowhere. These systems don't need to trap your body. They only need to keep you chasing illusions, because in the chasing, you spill your essence. This leads to another core concept, the commodification of your emotional field. Fear, shame, outrage. These are not incidental byproducts of the world's dysfunction. They are intentional tools. Emotional energy is one of the most potent forms of power in the universe. What you feel intensely, you feed. So when the media floods your perception with fear-based narratives, wars, disasters, division, it is not merely informing you, it is farming you. It is harvesting your emotional charge and using it to perpetuate the very structures that benefit from your This is the economy of energy that lies beneath the surface economy of money. Even language, one of humanity's most beautiful tools, has been subtly encoded to keep your frequency low. The words you are taught to use, should, need, deserve, fail, sin, carry vibrations that reinforce lack and separation. The syntax of modern speech favors objectification over embodiment. We talk about feelings instead of feeling them. We describe life as something that happens to us rather than something we are co-creating in every breath. This linguistic architecture subtly conditions you to experience reality as something external, impersonal, and unchangeable. It is spellcraft, and you were born into its grammar. Another vital pattern at play is the inversion of natural power. In many ancient traditions, the body was revered as a temple, a microcosm of the universe. But in the modern matrix, the body is either idolized or ignored, turned into a consumer object, or seen as a mere biological machine. Its subtle intelligence is mocked, its natural rhythms are disrupted, and its energetic centers, meridians, subtle fields are not only misunderstood, but actively suppressed. Nutrition, movement, breath, rest, these basic tools of energy sovereignty are rarely honored in a society that profits from your disconnection. You are trained to override the body's signals in favor of schedules, screens, and stimulants. The result is not just illness, it is energetic amnesia. This all culminates in the final and most insidious illusion, the separation of self from source. You are subtly programmed to believe that the divine is distant, external, conditional. Whether it's through institutional religion or scientific materialism, the message is the same: you are not enough as you are. You must earn your worth, seek approval, follow the rules. This creates a lifelong loop of striving, guilt, and dependence. You seek healing from healers, knowledge from gurus, salvation from systems, forgetting that the source you're looking for breathes through you. But here lies the paradox. The system that siphons you is not all-powerful. It only functions when you forget. Its primary tool is not force, but consent by unconsciousness. The moment you become aware of the siphoning, you interrupt it. Awareness is disruption. Consciousness is a firewall. Every time you reclaim your attention from the chaos, every time you choose to feel fully rather than react blindly, every time you listen to your body's subtle wisdom over external pressure, you are stepping out of the matrix. You are collapsing its grip, not with resistance, but with remembering. This is not merely a personal awakening, it is a collective shift in frequency. As more individuals unplug from the energetic economy of unconsciousness, the entire structure begins to dissolve, because the system is not sustained by brute force, it is sustained by belief. Change your beliefs, and you change your vibration. Change your vibration, and you change the world. Beneath the surface of your daily life, beyond the schedules, identities, and transactions, there is a silent theater always unfolding, a place where symbols, stories, and archetypes move like shadows across an inner stage. This is not the theater you see on screens or in scripts, it is the symbolic undercurrent of human experience, the dream field where the real war for your energy is waged. To see this realm clearly is not to escape reality, but to decode it, to recognize that your life has always been a myth in motion, and your energy, a treasure more ancient than any crown. One such symbolic tale is the story of the garden and the cage. You are born into a garden, vibrant, intuitive, deeply attuned to rhythm and feeling. You can feel this when you watch a newborn track movement with wonder, when a child dances without instruction, when an artist loses time in the act of creation. This garden is your natural state, coherent, sovereign, connected to source, not as an idea, but as a sensation. But soon, a cage is built. Not a cage of bars, but of ideas. It begins with language. This is good, that is bad. Then comes identity. You are a boy. You are Pakistani. You are Muslim. You are smart. You are not enough. The cage grows denser with rules, roles, rituals, and rankings. Before long, the child forgets the garden and adapts to the cage. They sit still. They perform. They obey. The cage becomes their world, and the garden a dream they can't remember. But here's the secret encoded in this myth. The garden never left. It lives beneath the floor of the cage. Every time you question a belief, a bar is removed. Every moment of stillness that reveals a deeper knowing rattles the walls. And the more conscious you become of the cage, the more clearly you can feel the garden pushing up through the cracks. The energy they take from you is your natural inheritance, the vibrancy of the garden rerouted into the circuitry of the cage. To break free is to return not backward, but inward. Another myth unfolds, in the form of the puppet and the string. In this story, every human begins life with a golden thread connecting them to the cosmos. This thread is their direct line to intuition, to presence, to the infinite pulse of being. But over time, other threads are attached threads of obligation, performance, fear. These are the puppet strings. They pull in different directions, one for approval, one for conformity, one for material success. The more strings you carry, the harder it becomes to hear the vibration of your golden thread. You begin to believe that the strings are who you are. You even protect them. But a moment comes, perhaps in silence, perhaps in suffering, when one string snaps, a crisis, a revelation, a loss. And in that space of disorientation, you feel the pulse again. The golden thread, still there, humming beneath the noise. It doesn't pull, it sings, and suddenly, the other strings feel like shackles. The path forward is not to yank them all at once, but to trace them back. To ask, whose voice is this? Who taught me this fear? Is this thought mine, or inherited? And with each string released, your energy returns not as a flood, but as a frequency. The final story, the most potent and sacred of Alice, the story of the sleeping giant. In this tale, a great being slumbers beneath the surface of every human soul. It dreams through your eyes, walks through your steps, weeps through your wounds. It is immense, luminous, ancient beyond time. But the world fears this giant, for it cannot be controlled. And so, from birth, you are told to shrink, to fragment, to specialize, to fit into roles too small for your soul. The giant is sedated not with drugs, but with distraction, not with chains, but with expectation. But here's the twist. The giant doesn't awaken through rebellion, it awakens through remembrance. A moment of silence in nature, a conversation that pierces the heart, a sudden surge of clarity. These are not random, they are the giant stirring. In every act of reclaiming your energy, every breath taken consciously, every belief questioned, every pattern witnessed without judgment is a signal to the giant that it is safe to rise. You are not just a person. You are a vessel for the reawakening of this great being, not separate from you, but your deepest self, your true identity beneath all programming. When the giant wakes, you don't gain power. You realize you are power. Not the power to dominate, but to radiate. To walk through the world without feeding the machine. To see systems, yet not be seduced by them. To recognize others still asleep in the cage, still tangled in strings, and to offer not doctrine, but presence. Not correction, but clarity. These myths are not fiction. They are the symbolic scaffolding of the human condition. They have been told in different languages, through different faces, across continents and centuries. But they all point to the same truth. You were never meant to be a source of fuel for something outside of you. You are a sun, and the moment you stop outsourcing your light, you begin to burn from within. So what now? Now that you've remembered the garden, seen the strings, felt the stirrings of the giant. Once you've seen the system not just in concept, but in feeling, something deep within begins to shift. It's not a shout or a dramatic explosion. It's subtler than that. Like light re-entering a room where the windows had been covered. You begin to notice things. Noticing becomes your superpower. You see where your energy goes. You feel the leak when you scroll without purpose. When you agree to something you don't mean. When you speak from obligation instead of truth. These tiny moments, seemingly insignificant, are where the reclamation begins. To live in alignment with what you've remembered means re-entering your life. Not to destroy it, but to recalibrate it. You no longer move through your day as a passive participant, allowing your attention to be pulled and harvested. You move like a being with an inner compass. Not rushing, not proving, but choosing. Choosing where to look, what to feed, when to respond. Every choice becomes a vote, either for your sovereignty or for your slavery. And each conscious vote builds momentum. Take the realm of time. In the old frequency, time was a tyrant, something to chase, to fear, to manage. But when you step into energetic clarity, time becomes fluid, intimate. You begin to honor rhythm over rigidity. You notice that rushing actually consumes more energy than moving slowly with full presence. Slowness becomes a portal to power. You no longer try to fit more into your day, but try to fit more of yourself into each moment. Presence returns your energy to you. Relationships begin to shift, often without you trying to change anyone. When you're no longer playing energetic roles, people pleaser, rescuer, competitor, you create space for others to meet you in authenticity. Sometimes they rise with you. Sometimes they fall away. This is not a loss, but a realignment. The people who remain or arrive will reflect the frequency you now hold. Mutual sovereignty. No more cords disguised as connections. No more emotional leeches dressed as love. Just shared light. Walking together, even the way you consume changes. You become aware that everything food, media, sound, words, is either nourishing your frequency or draining it. You don't need rigid rules. You need resonance. You feel the difference between food made with life and food manufactured by machines. Between art that awakens and content that distracts. Between music that stirs your soul and noise that manipulates your mood. You tune your life like an instrument. You begin to ask, does this choice return me to myself, or does it scatter me? Further, that question alone becomes a lighthouse in the fog. You will face resistance, not just from the world, but from within. Old identities will cling like ghosts. Patterns will echo, asking to be fed again. There may be days you forget and fall back into loops. That's not failure. That's recalibration. The goal is not perfection, it's awareness. Every time you catch yourself in a pattern and return to presence, you rewire reality. This is spiritual alchemy in motion. The workplace, perhaps one of the densest arenas of energy, siphoning, offers profound opportunities for transformation. Whether you work for yourself or within a system, your presence shifts the field. You stop playing the role of the depleted performer and begin bringing coherence into your tasks. Even mundane actions become sacred when done with attention. If you can't yet leave the system, you can change your frequency within it. Often, this alone begins to open unexpected doors. Opportunities emerge. Dead energy falls away. The more you embody sovereignty, the less you can remain in spaces that thrive on compromise. Technology, too, becomes a mirror. Where once it served as an addictive drain, it now becomes a conscious tool. You don't scroll to escape, you curate to connect. You don't post to perform, you express to share presence. You begin using technology as an amplifier of awareness, not a numbing agent of the soul. You set boundaries not as punishment, but as protection for your energy. You no longer owe your constant availability to a world that feeds on distraction. And then there is the body. This vessel, this temple, this sacred interface. You begin to see it not as a burden or afterthought, but as your closest ally in energetic sovereignty. The body holds memory. It speaks in sensation. It signals when you're leaking energy before the mind can even form a thought. You learn to listen. Breath becomes a reset button. Movement becomes medicine. Stillness becomes revelation. The more you return to the body, the more anchored you become in the know, and the less vulnerable you are to being pulled out of it. Eventually, you discover that this reclamation is not a series of isolated changes, but a shift in posture. You stop leaning forward into the future. You stop crouching under the past. You rise. You occupy your space. Fully, gently, radiantly. You become a sovereign center in a world of spinning wheels. This is what it means to break free, not with rebellion, but with remembering, not by overthrowing the outer world, but by reclaiming your inner realm. The systems may remain for now, but you no longer feed them with your unconscious consent. And every being who makes this shift adds weight to the new world, a utopia, but a frequency. Not a perfect future, but a more authentic present. You began this journey under the light of a startling truth. From the day you were born, your energy was marked not with reverence, but with strategy, not with guidance, but with exploitation. You were taught to hand over your life force, drop by drop, to systems that promised meaning, but delivered maintenance. But now you see. And once you see, you do not go back. Not in the same way. The cage may still exist, but you no longer identify with its bars. The strings may tug, but you now feel their artificiality. The sleeping giant within you has opened its eyes not to destroy the world, but to reshape your place in it. This seeing is sacred, but it is only the beginning. Awareness is the first breath of freedom. But freedom must become form. It must become movement. It must be walked. And that walking begins in the smallest of moments, the choice to pause before reacting, the decision to unplug from a loop of fear, the instinct to trust your own knowing when the world offers noise. These moments matter more than empires, because the real revolution is not televised. It happens in the silent rewiring of your internal circuitry. And this rewiring is contagious. Your frequency touches everything. You become a tuning fork. You don't need to convert, convince, or compete. You simply be. You emit the tone of sovereignty, and others begin to remember the song they've forgotten. This is the quiet magic of true power. It liberates by resonance. Your presence becomes a permission slip. Your stillness becomes a message. It's safe to wake up. It's safe to come home to your energy. It's safe to no longer be food for the system. So what is left to do? You already know. Not in the mind, but in the marrow. You don't need a checklist, you need a return. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the moment before the programming took hold. And from there, Begin to rebuild not your life, but your relationship to life. Let your awareness lead. Let your intuition anchor. Let your joy not your trauma be your compass. You will not do this perfectly, nor should you. This is not about enlightenment as a status. It is about integration as a way of being. There will be days you forget, days you numb, days you spiral. But now, you know where the doorway is. And you know that the lock was never real. Every time you return, the path deepens. And remember, you are not alone. There are others walking beside you, in silence, anchoring new timelines in kitchens and cubicles, under stars and streetlights. You may not see them, but you will feel them. They are you. You are them. This remembrance is not personal, it is planetary. The reclamation of energy is not a private escape. It is the rebirth of a collective field long buried under noise. Each awakening is a spark. Together, we are a constellation. So breathe, reclaim, radiate. The world they built with your energy is trembling, not in fear, but in anticipation. You are returning.